when I lost everything I owned in a flood in 98, we were able to kind of pick up some essentials at Walmart after having lost everything, like the house, all my clothes, everything. One of the things that I stuck in my cart as an essential was a romance novel. And, those are just the most horrendous nights where you're sitting in the motel bathroom floor while the husband and child are in the next room. You're trying not to wake them up. And you're like, what am I going to do? I mean, I've lost everything. What about this? What about that? And the only thing that kept me sane was reading this romance novel. And it wasn't necessarily the best romance novel, but I was grateful to have it. But that was important to me because I thought, if there's ever a woman sitting on the bathroom floor reading a book for comfort or for just whatever, if it's mine, it better be the best book that I can do.
Welcome, everyone, to Fated Mates. I'm Sarah McLean. I read romance novels, and I write them.
And I'm Jennifer Prokop, a romance reader and editor.
And it's happening, everyone. We've been keeping a big secret.
It's a huge secret. Yeah, it's a secret.
First of all, first things first.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Everyone, happy Derek Craven Day.
I'd say to all who celebrate, but if you're listening, you celebrate.
You celebrate. Congratulations. You're one of us.
Would Derek Craven celebrate his own holiday? He would, because he is Derek Craven.
I think he would. Here's the thing. I think everyone around him would, and he would be like, no. But, like, be very into it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And if, like, you forgot Derek Craven Day, forget it. Anyway, it's Derek Craven Day, and it's a Trailblazer episode. It's a 1-2 punch of Lisa Kleypas, who is telling us about her life in romance, about her work in romance. There's a ton of cross stuff in here, everybody. You're going to love it. If you're a fanatic like we are, you're going to really love all the ways that she talks about so many books through this episode. And if you like heated rivalry, maybe there's a little treat for you in here.
She's also going to talk about her forthcoming historical fiction release, The Queen of Lombard Street, which comes out this fall. And we are going to play a few rounds of Would Derek Craven with her. So, anyway, it's going to be amazing.
Because she's long-suffering, and we begged.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know how you could not, right?
Yeah, I think she had a lovely time.
I do too.
And I think all of you are going to have a lovely time, but we won't make you wait any longer. Here's Lisa Kleypas, Trailblazer. We are so excited to finally have Lisa Kleypas with us.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
For not just a Trailblazer episode, and I don't even want to be like, a Trailblazer episode is amazing, but also to celebrate what we consider to be the most romantic holiday in February.
Derek Craven Day.
So, welcome, Lisa.
For everybody at home,
Thank you.
Sarah has met Lisa before. I never have, but even here on Zoom, I just want you all to know I'm really trying hard to keep my cool. It's fine.
Oh, I think you're so cool, Jen.
Well, I have told this story before, but I've never told it to Lisa, so I'm going to tell it to you, Lisa, that you and I, we were in the same room once, and we did not meet because we had an editor in common. And it was RWA, and I walked into sort of a large room with my editor, and she pointed at you kind of 10 to 20 feet away and said, "Oh, there's Lisa. We'll go say hello." And I said, "Oh, no." And I turned around and I walked out of the room.
Sarah, we were best friends and didn't know it already.
I was like,
I would have loved you immediately.
Speak to her.
No. Know your betters, and you did, and that's fine.
But then we were put on panels together, and you were very kind and always have been incredibly kind. And
well, you too.
Lovely.
Too.
And so I'm so happy that we finally have you at Fated Mates to talk about.
I'm thrilled.
How incredible a career you've had and how transformational your work has been to the genre. And so I wonder, we always begin with this kind of question of why romance? How did you come here? Were you a reader? If you were, who did you read? Tell us the beginning, the origin story.
Well, I mean, I was always a huge reader, and I grew up in Massachusetts and lived in Concord, Carlisle. So I was like literally down the road from Louisa May Alcott's house. So I, of course, read Little Women and all the other books that Louisa May Alcott wrote, and went to her house all the time. And because they gave tours, or they would just kind of let you hang out back in those days. So, so not only was I a huge reader and was just sort of steeped in this whole Concord reading culture, but also I did have the kind of childhood, as everyone more when I was did, where we were a bit latchkey children. So we had a lot of time on our own. And so I spent a lot of time in this little attic of this 4-square house that we lived in. And it was really warm, had a single light bulb up there. And so I would just huddle up there with a big box of Nancy Drew or the Brontes or Charles Dickens. I mean, I just had this huge box of books and would just go through them. So when I was in high school, there was a conference. It was a romance writers conference at Bretton Woods, the White Mountains in New Hampshire.
Uh-huh.
And it cost $400 to attend, which was just a fortune to me. But I had saved up all my waitressing money. So I went to this writers conference because I wanted to meet all of these writers and just see all these people in the business. Because at that point in the 80s, romance had really gotten an engine. Like it was starting to really go. And so I saw Jennifer Wilde, who was like this huge historical romance hit. And because everyone was saying, there's Jennifer Wilde. And I look at it, was this like 6'5" Texan guy, you know, it was wonderful. And I saw Carolyn Nichols, who had just started the Love Swept line.
Carolyn Nichols, she comes up all the time. I know.
And I was hanging out a lot with this wonderful young woman. She was only like a few years older than I was, like a junior in high school, and she wasn't that much older. And so we were hanging out, talking about our love of novels, romance novels, and I just kind of drifted toward her whenever we were in the same room or in the same workshop or something. And eventually I said, well, I didn't really catch your name. What is your name? She said, Ellen Edwards. So this was Ellen Edwards, the amazing editor at Avon. So young, so smart. So she said, if you ever want to write a novel for me and send it to me, I will read it. And so that once you start your first romance novel, that's it. I mean, you just are compelled to keep writing them until you get one published. Yeah. So that kind of was the start of it.
So that's incredible. So were you reading romance at the top? Were you a romance fan?
Oh, yes. I was an indiscriminate reader. I still am, actually. So I would read everything from the classics to absolutely whatever was on sale at Paperback Booksmith. And it seemed like every week there was at least one or two new big historicals. There was always a new Barbara Cartland out, always a new Janet Daly out. So whatever money I had, I spent on books. And so I remember when I was about 12, Kathleen Woodiwiss had already come out with Flame in the Flower, which really started all of it. And so I read that and was just, I was swept away. I mean, back then when it started, historical romances didn't have the kind of parameters that you would sort of think they had now. And so there were exotic adventures. There were all sorts of just wild, crazy scenarios. And it just seemed like a lot of freedom, for better or worse. And so it was really exciting because you never knew what you were going to get when you opened the cover.
Yeah. So did you then send your first book to Ellen? Like, what happened from there?
Yeah, I actually sent, but I wrote 5 novels, I think. And then the 5th one finally got accepted. And I sent them out to everyone, like literally make several copies of the manuscript, send out all these, heavy paper manuscripts to everyone. And the first acceptance I got was from Fawcett Books at the time, and it just wasn't quite enough money. But then NAL came in with an offer. And so that was enough to allow me to actually make enough of a living. If you can believe this, at that time, it was $10,000 for an advance for that first novel. I had just graduated college, and that was enough to keep me for a year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so for people who are listening, NAL, we've talked about this before, but NAL was Berkeley back at the became Berkeley sort of along the way. And so those books, those sort of first books, are really interesting to me because those books are out of print, those early books. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about those stories, because I do think like I've read them both. And so I'm sort of
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, please don't. Please don't. I think so can you talk about those books and that how your work kind of evolved? Because I think it did really quickly.
Yes. Well, they were imitative because I wanted to get published. And when you start out, you don't have the confidence or even the self-knowledge to know what your style is or what your preferences really are. So you try everything. So the first two were historical Regency era. The next one was set in conquered Civil War era. And then the next one was sort of the crazy Western time travel. And so I was just trying all these different things. And then I got a contract with Ellen finally, because that was what I always really, really wanted. A new contract opportunity came up. And she was a remarkable editor. I don't know if editors have the luxury of being able to do what she did back then, which is to really work with an author, shape an author. She would understand what you were trying to do and then say, well, here's how we can work towards creating that novel that you want to write. So with this contract, I had this, what I thought was wonderful proposal, innocent heroine, aristocrat, blah, blah, blah. And she said in this really nice, gentle way that she always had, I really can't accept this proposal because it's just not there. It's not what we would like. So let's really try to free up your imagination. Let's try to write something unusual. And I believe she used Laura Kinsale as an example because she had just come out with The Hidden Heart. And Laura Kinsale, tremendously experimental, brilliant, searingly romantic. But I mean, she would try something really wild and different with
every book.
Every book, yeah.
So I came up with the idea of this woman with tremendous baggage. Lily Lawson was a character. It was back in the Regency era. And she has a secret, which is that she has an out-of-wedlock child who is being held for hostage by her ex-lover. So with this tremendous secret and having to pay him money, blackmail money, she has to spend all of her time hanging out in a gambling palace run by Derek Craven. And so I wrote this book, and it was really exciting because it was different. It's certainly different for me, but I mean, what was being published at the time, it was also very different.
And this is Then Came You we're talking about. Okay.
Yes. And so Derek Craven was a minor character, and he was not the sort of character that you would ever have as a hero.
I think that's really interesting because now, of course, we see these characters and we know, but at the time, no one would have ever thought that Derek Craven was going to be a hero, right?
And this is why we feel so strongly that you are such a trailblazer, and why we talk so much about Derek Craven, because I think he didn't exist prior to you.
Yeah, and it was such a risk at the time. I mean, now it doesn't. Well, gee, big risk. But at the time, it was really strange. When I went to Ellen with the next book proposal, I said, "Listen, I can't stop thinking about this character, Derek Craven, and I know he's rough around the edges. I mean, he has a terrible past. He grave robber, uneducated, based on the real William Crockford at the time. And having read the biography of William Crockford, it made me think about how this man was so good at getting money away from the aristocrats, getting them to spend their money, getting them to apply for credit. So he knew all of their secrets. And he was very obsequious to all these people. But underneath, he must have really had kind of contempt for them, or thought, yeah, you think you're better than me, but I know all your financial problems.
Right.
Secrets.
I know everything.
Yeah. So that's Derek. And when I went to Ellen and I said, I really want to do a romance with him as the hero, there was this long silence. He's such a nice person.
I've had that silence.
And she said, well, could he be a long lost duke or something? And I was like, no. No. And she said, but he has a Cockney accent. And I was like, he can have some speech lessons. He'll take some elocution. Okay. So we wanted to do that the whole time. And, but it was clear that it was just such a startling thing for her. But the more I explained it to her where I was coming from, it was that I was so tired already of having to write a novel where the hero had all the money, he was the best looking, he had all the women, he had everything in the world. And then you pair him with a young, innocent girl, and he has all the cards, and it's there's no challenge. And I could never really make myself believe that that kind of man would ever value a woman like Sarah as much as Derek. I mean, to Derek, she is the most unattainable, precious, wonderful creature in the world because she sees him as a full human being. I mean, she treats him with respect. She treats the sex workers at his gambling palace with respect. She sees people as people, doesn't look down on them. So he would never dream of, kind of taking her down with him is what his view is, that his love would not never be good enough for her. So I just thought that was so tremendously compelling because, man, you get in bed with an aristocrat who has all the women, but you get in bed with Derek, and it would be amazing.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Jennifer Jacopelli, author of Game, Set, Match.
Okay, so this is a tennis romance. So Penny Harrison's hard work is finally paying off. She's 21 years old. She's a tennis icon in the making. She's got massive sponsorship deals and legendary stats on the horizon. All she has to do is nail the upcoming Grand Slam in Paris. Until then, no room for mistakes. So when she returns to her home tennis club in the Outer Banks to train, she comes face to face with the biggest mistake she ever made, Alex Russell. This is tennis's bad boy, and of course, the only guy who's ever broken Penny's heart. So to keep her head in the game and her mind off Alex, she's just going to determine to train, and she really leans into her friendship with tennis's other rising stars, her buddies Jasmine and Indiana. And there's a bunch of fun, drama as all of these, the romances, the off the court things happening between all of them.
Sexy challenger vibe.
Maybe. So as the days tick down to Paris, Penny seems to always find herself across the court from Alex. She knows that winning it all means laser focus. So why can't Penny stay away from the one guy who ruins everything?
Because he's so sexy. Yeah. If you want to read this sexy, sporty romance, then you can read Game, Set, Match right now in print, ebook, or audiobook. And if your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the book. Thanks to Jennifer Jacopelli for sponsoring this week's episode. Where were you in your career when Derek happened?
It was still mostly the beginning. I had made some inroads, I'd started to gain an audience, but, it was hard to measure in those days. There weren't a lot of tools other than did it hit the bestseller list or not. The publishers, it's always, it's hard to get information and not be, it's just hard. So
and you were still very young.
Yes. I was 21 when the first one was published. And
that's wild.
So, yeah, I know. I mean, I'm still kind of amazed by that, really.
Sarah Fielding.
So, I think Dreaming of You was the first time that Ellen came to me and she said, you're starting to get on some lists, some bestseller lists. This is a good direction. This is nice. She was starting to realize that this was a niche.
Yeah.
That I could create for myself. And this was a way that I could stand out. And so it was a gradual thing because it wasn't a huge explosion of sales. But the persistence of that book is what was remarkable because every royalty period, it came back and grew and grew and grew. And then when I started getting, fan letters and doing interviews, that book was just always there. It just always kept coming up.
Well, he feels also really, primordial for you in a lot of ways, in the sense that I now think of you, when I think of you as a writer and I think about what, Lisa's core story is, like, you write a working man. Like, you write a man who has purpose and power, but not through necessarily, though you have written lots of titles, like, most of your heroes are men who have jobs and purpose.
Well, yes. I mean, I it's just my own personal thing where I just have always loved a man who has skills, like, of any kind. Like, I love a man who can fix things, especially, but I love men who...
Tom Severin.
Yes, exactly. I mean, a man in his shirt sleeves with a tool in hand is, like, so hot for me. and so I really loved researching and finding all the examples of real life guys back then who were tremendously accomplished, tremendously successful. And, it's a wonderful fantasy to have, like, a Prince Charming, an aristocrat who has all the success and the mansion and all of that. The truth is, though, back then, even going back to the Regency time, the industrial era was starting to put a lot of pressure on these landowners because a lot of their workers were going to the factory jobs. The income was getting less and less and less. And these were families who had had debt for decades, maybe even centuries. So I think when you start to really go into the actual history of these eras, because not only the Regency, but the Victorian, it's really fun and different and exciting to do some research and find out what men and women were actually doing back then. It's one of the reasons I love your book, Sarah, is that you're looking into actual professions and jobs and scenarios that they're fresh,
Yeah. One of my favorite, and I really tried to run this down, but it might have been on Twitter, was someone who once observed that you two are like, Kleypas is more interested in industry and McLean is more interested in crime.
It makes them very complex, and I mean, that to me is just fascinating.
So I wonder if you could talk, I eventually want to come back to those early books, especially I want to come back to Forever My Love. And you probably know why. But I want to keep going.
I honestly can't.
Forever My Love is the one that you're on the cover of, Lisa.
Oh, that one.
So actually, let's do it now.
Let's just do it now, Sarah.
Yeah, now that actually wasn't a direct painting of me.
Oh, but that one.
Did, yes. They because this was, like, not long after my beauty pageant days. So I had long hair and I had a great figure, and because I ate nothing. And and a lot of makeup. It was the 80s, right? So they took some publicity pictures for a book dump where you put this big picture on top of this cardboard book stand in the bookstore. And so yes, I had that pose and the long hair and the pursed lips and all of that. So
I mean, it's fascinating to me because Sandra Brown was also on a cover right around that time. And so I think there is this sort of interesting time in the 80s when publishers kind of were interested in authors' brand as even more than, just what you're writing. And it's interesting because I think we are coming back around to that now. Like, I think publishers are really interested in what an author's brand brings to the table. And but also I just love that they're about, I'm really fascinated by the ones where the authors are also on the covers. So
Rebecca Brandywine too. I don't know if you ever
really?
Yes,
I'm writing that down.
Yes. And I believe, I may be wrong, but I think she posed with Fabio on her cover. So
how fun. I mean,
yes, you'll have to look.
Okay, so we're at Avon. You have written at this point 4 books. Did you do the Valorans at Avon? Yes.
Oh yes, I did those for Ellen too. And
those are America set. Those are New Orleans set.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm curious about the shift there because obviously, when you come through old school romance, as we, lovingly refer to it, the 70s and 80s, there was a lot of American set in that time period. And then America really dies off for most people stop writing American set, with the exception of obviously like Beverly Jenkins is writing a very sort of particular
Yes.
story in the United States. But were you driven? Were you pushed away from America?
No, I wouldn't say that. The thing is that the history of America, it's problematic, to say the least. And so when you set romances in that era, you have to really either ignore some things that shouldn't be ignored. I don't know. I mean, I'm not comfortable with creating an alternate history, and it's just not romantic what was going on. And so I think in some ways it was just easier to go to England, but also there are some
famously a place without any sort of problematic history.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Vaseline on the lens is different.
Different, right?
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah,
perfect way to put it. And so the whole Victorian time period was really calling to me because nobody was doing it at the time.
Yeah.
And so I set the Wallflowers in early Victorian time period, and then with each series that I've done, I pushed it later and later because that turned out to be just perfect for me. I mean, I love the Victorians for being so gadgety, or for these tremendous upheavals that were going on in society. I mean, there's just so much fertile ground to really set some interesting stories and characters. So it just that called to me, and once I did the Wallflowers, that was it. Like I was interested in pursuing that era.
Prior to the Wallflowers, you did the Bow Street Runners. You did
lots of standalones. Suddenly, you other right things, but it
feels the Wallflowers is the other. It feels like there's Craven, and then there's the next level up is the Wallflowers. Like there's
that was the break. Like Derek was a breakthrough because after that I understood what I was really good at in terms of creating a self-made hero, people, working class people, and men and women. And then when I was thinking about doing a series, because I love world building. I mean, I really love it. I love seeing what happens with some characters in the next book. And I love it that I have readers who will come up to me at book signings and be like, so how are so-and-so doing? How many children did they have? And it's like they love to kind of join in the whole world building with me. So I knew I wanted to do a series. And at that point, the Sinsters were doing really well for Stephanie.
Oh, sure.
Julie had just started.
When are we?
Doing
2006, 2000? No, earlier than that. It's like 2004, early 2000s.
I think early. Yeah. I think a little earlier.
Yeah, Secrets of a Summer Night came out 2004. You had 2 books in 2004: Again the Magic and Secrets of a Summer Night. Again the Magic, which I think is like the greatest quiet romance ever written. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had a special place in my heart for that. I just, I love those characters, and
that's clear because Again the Magic leads into the Wallflowers.
Yes, because then I knew I had to do something with Marcus. I loved him. I loved it that he wasn't tall. I loved it that he was a little bit, stocky, and I don't know. I thought he was so sexy. I always loved that.
Our friend Adriana calls him only my short king. Like that's, and we just know that she's talking about Westcliff.
Because it's again, he's the kind of guy that when he gets the woman, he's going to be all about her. And I don't know. Again, very much a man with skills. He knows things. So I wanted to bring him in, and I was thinking about how to base a series because Julie had started the Bridgertons. The Sinsters were going like gangbusters, and I was like, well, I don't want to do a family series. I want to try something based on women and female friendship. And I did get a little bit of pushback just with the powers that be sort of saying, well, female-based series don't sell.
They still, by the way, everybody, they still sell that.
Yes, they do. Yeah, exactly. And yet to me, of course they would sell. I knew they would sell because I think that aspect of romance novels is something people don't reflect on enough, that it is about women making women the center of the story. And until romance publishing really took off in the 80s, publishing and Hollywood all thought that romance was the side story. The real story was a man doing something, having an adventure, saving the world, and then plot B was, and his girlfriend came back to him, or, his estranged wife, he gets back together with her. But women were always the B plot, and a woman's story was always the minor plot. So finally, romance publishing takes off because woman is no longer the B plot, we're the A plot. It's about us, our needs, our thoughts, desires, our fantasies, and what we accomplish or want to accomplish. So that is so important to understand about the romance business, romance industry, because I think it's still a struggle for Hollywood to get their heads around featuring a romance and saying, yeah, this is about the woman and about this relationship. And this is about what women are interested in. And it's not the B plot. And I mean, like, I'm digressing a little, but I'm sure this is why Heated Rivalry is doing so well. I've watched a couple episodes and love it.
Sure.
But it is a romance, and it's about romance.
Yes.
And I wish Hollywood would pay attention to this and understand this is the direction to go. And it doesn't have to be the B plot.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by Blue Box Press, publishers of The Marriage Auction series by Audrey Carlin.
So we've talked about this series before. It's perfect for anybody who loves a kind of like sold into marriage story, which, I know a lot of you out there do. This is a contemporary series where 4 young women essentially enter into a marriage auction to be married off to the highest bidders. They are paid for a 3-year contract, meaning they can walk away after 3 years from their marriage with $1 million a year. And the big question is, like, what would you do for $3 million? Each of these women has a very specific reason why they have to enter into the marriage. And then, of course, they, over the course of this kind of very delicious, sexy, gossipy series, find love. As part of the series, Audrey wrote 2 novellas. One is a Christmas novella because everybody loves a Christmas novella. And the other one is called Madame Alana, which is a really interesting, mysterious story about the woman who runs the auction, who took over after she herself was sold in the auction in a much less kind of consensual way. And this is her story of finding love as the auction madam. So these books are available right now.
These books have been sort of re-jacketed with new covers to match the rest of the Marriage Auction series. So this is like a fun time for you to check them out. They are available in print or ebook. And if your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the series. Thanks to Blue Box Press and Audrey Carlin for sponsoring this week's episode.
I can't think really of, I'm sure there were series that were connected by other kinds of relationships prior to Wallflowers, but I do feel like it felt like the first time as a reader that I did see a sort of connection that was so strong too. That series really hangs together as a series. And I feel like it's made better for the books progressing in the way that they do, right? Like if you've read the series in order, especially if you've read, again, The Magic and then the series in order, you're really getting a full picture that you don't get, in other ways. And I think, just personally as both a reader and a writer, I was really inspired. I know as a writer, I was inspired by the kind of Kleypas universe, and it became for me a model for my work. Like, I can just keep layering books on because Lisa does it.
It's fun. It's really fun. And one of the things that I loved about the Wallflowers is that they were misfits, because it's always supposed to be like the most beautiful woman and everyone wants her and she's perfect. And I was like, that is not my experience. Like, I remember going to middle school and the dances and everyone stood on opposite sides of the room and I felt like a dork. And so that's the woman that's really fun to see, get her man.
I think it also, to me, it's like speaks to there's such a belief, right, that like you're going to fall in love and like leave your friends behind.
Yep.
And instead, this is a series that really is like, no, in fact, our commitment to our friends is even stronger, right? I mean, Evie's real, like, kind of feeling that she had lost her friends because by marrying St. Vincent, she will have said that what happened to Lillian didn't matter. And so I think that, like, that's the other thing I really liked about that series. And I think it's the reason it still really hits for me in a very specific kind of way, is because of that. Like, they don't just like get married and never see each other again.
Well, yes. And I mean, part of female friendship, a powerful part of it is forgiveness. We have to forgive each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because we're people and we screw up sometimes. And so sometimes a friend will do something and you're like, I hated that she did that, but I love her. She's still my friend. And so I felt like the other Wallflowers, even Lillian, would understand that Evie was in an absolutely desperate, like even life-threatening circumstance. And this was the best Evie could think of for herself at the time. And the very last scene of the very last Wallflowers book, was the four of them together, because that to me was really the point of the series, was these four female friends.
Yeah. Well, so could we talk about, since we're doing sort of the arc of your career, let's talk about the impact of the Wallflowers, because I do feel like that is where Lisa goes stratospheric in a lot of ways for readers. And also, is this really where it was? You felt like, oh, this is the series that transformed.
It did, yes. I mean, it did feel like a big step forward. I mean, it did feel like a different level. But as you know, you can't ever say I've arrived. Now, now I know what I'm doing and I'm just going to do this over and over and over again. You have to keep challenging yourself. I mean, you have to always try new directions, push the edges, push the envelope. And so I never felt settled or, quote, successful in that sense. And I wonder if I didn't possibly have this image when I was much younger of, oh, someday I'll be successful and then I'll be content and self-confident and, everything will be roses. And it's never like that. Like, it's always work and it's always something that you're stressing about a little bit.
Yeah, all the time.
I mean, does that... Yes.
I mean, but it does, it's interesting because we've had this conversation now with, I don't know, 20 authors. And it does feel like the perception from within is often, well, I don't know, I was just, head down. I was nose to the grindstone, too close to the work. I couldn't tell. Mm-hmm. But it does feel, I mean, as much as Jen and I are obviously Craven evangelists, there is so much powerful love for St. Vincent. And the sort of the sense of, St. Vincent is one of those kind of romance heroes in the pantheon of romance heroes. And so I wonder, I've heard you talk because I've, cornered you in restaurants and asked you about St. Vincent. But can you talk a little bit about that book, about Devil in Winter, and how it came to be? And did it feel as special as we all think it is? I mean, I think, we talked to Loretta Chase on an episode and we talked about Lord of Scoundrels, and she sort of talks about, she just knew. She knew it was special.
Yeah.
You did.
Yes, I knew when I was writing Devil in Winter. The whole challenge of turning a villain into a hero was tremendously exciting. But this was the third Wallflower book. So, when you get two books into a series and all of a sudden you are familiar with the characters, like, what kind of joke so-and-so would make or what reaction someone else would have. So there was a comfort level with the series. I loved the challenge of turning him into a hero. And the thing that started off was I knew that he had to be thoroughly deconstructed at the very beginning. Like, he's at a really low point. And so the irony is he wants to marry her because he desperately needs money. I mean, he has to have it. And because his father has spent everything, the family's been in debt forever, estate's crumbling, blah, blah, blah. So he marries this woman, and it turns out she doesn't have the money that she thought she had or that anyone else thought she had. But what there is this gambling club that her father started. And so here he finally has an opportunity to remake himself. And he remakes himself because of her influence. And I don't know what it was. I could hardly wait to get up in the morning, and I never wanted to stop writing. Like it was like, Mommy, I haven't had lunch yet. And I'm like, oh crap. And, or, honey, it's time to, do this or that. I never wanted to stop. It was an obsession. And that book wrote itself in like 2.5 months.
Wow.
It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever had another one?
I've had shades of that. Marrying Winterbourne was kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a few here and there where it had that kind of energy. I think for a couple of the Hathaway, the Love in the Afternoon, that one, I had that same obsessive feeling, and I just wrote, and it seemed to come from that deeper place in your psyche.
That's another favorite of mine. So yeah.
Derek Craven, St. Vincent, and Winterbourne are sort of like the three clear front runner favorites in terms of like your heroes. And yet they're all really different. I think they do share that sort of like work will save us kind of like industry is, the engine of like positive masculinity versus a toxic aristocratic masculinity. But yet they're all really different. Do you think that's just a change in the romance reader, a change in you?
Well, I think when you just look at what makes that hero tick, what drives them. I have a lot of heroes that have a real sense of inferiority and a lot of baggage, and so they're all very driven. And I think of them all sort of like a fighter who has his fists up, his dukes up to protect himself. So he's always got his guard up. But the problem with that is that even though you're keeping bad stuff out, you're also keeping the good stuff out.
Uh-huh.
He's not vulnerable. And so it's only the heroine in each case through her own particular way that kind of gets in underneath his guard. And then once you're inside his guard, he is completely protective and takes care of you, worships you. I don't know. I feel like there's a sort of a security thing that once you make that connection, it's like a relief. There's a relief of connection where you understand that you're with this person and now you're going to be safe. And I don't know why that's a button of mine, but it really is. Like I love that. I can't stand it when you read a romance and you worry about whether or not he's going to be faithful to her. Even though they've had their happy ending, it's like, I don't know if they're going to be happy.
Do you think readers respond to any heroines with the same kind of love and devotion they respond to these heroes? I could tell you my favorites, but
I think so. I mean, it's harder with heroines because, women had so many limitations. You can't have as easily a career woman as you can a career man.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had more polarizing heroines. I mean, one of my personal favorites is Pandora. She has a lot of my qualities in terms of like, I have terrible ADHD, and it's a source of strength for me in that I feel like it's a lot of my creativity is fueled by having a brain that works that way. But, I forget things. All the ADHD, I get distracted very easily. So I made Pandora very ADHD, and I made her have this ambition of wanting to create board games and wanting to do this, and
never wanting to get married, right? Like just kind of being like, that all seems like garbage. I'm fine.
Yes.
Kissing's probably gross.
Yes. And not only that, if she gets married, then her dream, having her own board game company, it's gone. Because the moment your husband decides, well, yeah, no, you need to have children and focus on that now, legally it's over. And the whole idea that your legal existence actually comes to an end when you get married in that time period is really startling. I'm not sure that we modern women really understand what it was like not that long ago, that you became a man's possession as soon as you got married. And in fact, the minute after the vows were said, everything you owned, including the shoes on your feet, belonged to your husband. So Pandora's very smart, even though she's ADHD, and she gets all the implications of this, and she's fiercely independent, and does not want to give that up. And that's why I put her with someone like Gabriel, because I was like, what's the worst thing that could happen to a woman like that? Meeting this gorgeous, amazing guy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And who's wonderful and who really genuinely loves you. I mean, that would be the hardest thing to resist.
I think the other thing that's really interesting about all the Ravenel characters, women, is all the way from Kathleen kind of up, they're all really different. And I think I was really interested in, some favorite archetypes, right? Like the Virgin Widow, which is I'm garbage for, right? All the way to sort of Helen, who is, kind of beautiful and perfect, but has this kind of roiling turmoil underneath when she finds out about the truth about her parentage. And, you have another widow who is, happily married. And so I think that to me.
Garrett Gibson, too. Remember the doctor?
Yes,
totally
right.
My favorite. Yeah.
And to me, it's if you were talking about some of my favorite Kleypas heroines, I'd definitely be talking about all one after another. And I do think it's because they are all so different. Even Cassandra, who is just how you're how could anybody keep up with Pandora? And then, there she's got Tom Severin, negotiating with her in the library. This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by romantasyletters.com, bringing magic back to your mailbox. This is so fun. So basically what happens when you sign up for the Romantasy letters is you receive 2 beautifully crafted letters in your mailbox every month. Each letter contains a new intimate communication, right? Essentially, a character is writing a letter to another character in the story, along with immersive keepsakes like codices, maps, stickers, sketches, etc. And you keep the letter essentially as a magical keepsake for the whole journey. Right now, you can, for example, sign up for a Treaty of Hearts. This is a realm where a realm where kingdoms clash and magic bends loyalty. 2 sworn enemies must strike a bargain sealed not in ink but in blood and desire. Their fragile truce could save their people or shatter their hearts forever. I love this idea. Did you ever read that book Griffin and Sabine back in the day? I loved opening those letters and feeling like I was eavesdropping.
Absolutely.
Anyway, if you also love this idea, then you can get the Romantasy letters right now, 24 letters over the next year, by going to romantasyletters.com and using the code FATED for 20% off your yearly subscription. Again, that's romantasyletters.com. Use the code FATED for 20% off. Thanks so much to Romantasy Letters for sponsoring this week's episode.
I think Garrett Gibson was almost as much of a leap forward for me, writing-wise and personally, as Derek was, because, she was based on the real-life Elizabeth Garrett Anderson. And when you read about this woman who had these incredible obstacles, you can't go to get your medical degree in England. Fine, I will learn French and go to France and get it there. And then come back here. Well, no, we won't let you become certified. Well, I'll find a loophole. So that's what women had to do when they had a dream or a career they really, really wanted back then. So after having researched her and having learned so much about her and just had a hell of a great time basing a character on her, I started to really look into more real history. And it's really disconcerting to discover how difficult it is because women aren't mentioned in history, hardly ever. It's what is it? Less than 0.5% of all recorded human history is actually about women. The rest of it is all about men. And it's not because women weren't doing anything. It's because historians were men who were writing about what other men were doing. And the nice thing, though, is that when you research really hard and look in the nooks and crannies, there are accounts of women doing phenomenal things. And I think we have these stereotypes of historical romance heroines either as a long-suffering wife or an innocent debutante, or else there's, of course, the wicked other woman, the prostitute. There's such a small handful of ways that we've been portraying women. And so, writers like Sarah, like me, there are other writers who have done women showing what could happen, like what some women did. And that's tremendously important,
So maybe this is a good transition to talk about the book that you have that's coming out later this year, The Queen of Lombard Street, because I think there's kind of romance adjacent, right? But it's about a woman who is an economist, right? Or a banker?
I started thinking about this book way back in 2020. And I reached a stopping point, and it actually happened because one night I was sitting with my husband and daughter. This was after the whole COVID thing had started, and so we were quarantined together. I'm laughing at something and then sort of coughing a little bit, and then for whatever reason I reach up and I touch the bottom of my throat, like right at the little hollow of your throat. Felt a lump there, and which was really weird. And I was like, that's true. Is that normal? No, I don't think I've had that before. So made doctor's appointment, went in to get it checked out. We need to send you for a biopsy, the whole process. And so it eventually led in June of 2020 to me having to get a complete thyroidectomy and thymectomy. And I had a tumor on the thymus gland. Like, I didn't even know what a thymus gland was, but it's called thymoma. So I was tremendously lucky because the surgery got it all out. It was all contained. It was malignant, but it was all out. And so I had a lot of recuperating time. And the problem with stopping to take a breath and take a little time is that you start thinking, which is just like really dangerous because then
in
you're
2020, especially.
Yeah,
very much. I had a lot of time to think. And I realized that I needed to make some changes in my life. And I realized that I was, after 30 odd years, in a bit of burnout because, you try from different angles and you accomplish everything you're trying to accomplish. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, where do I go now? I mean, do I want to just keep doing, more of what I've done? And so I started reflecting a lot about where I wanted to go. And the format of historical romance is that you keep this tight, perfect focus on the hero and heroine. So everything has to lead towards the eventual happy ending. And anytime that I ever digressed for that, I got tremendously interested in something that I felt added to it. Either I had an editor or readers who were like, yeah, well, you know what? We need to kind of push it back toward the actual romance story. But I felt that at times that really shortchanges the romance itself. That when you put a romance in a framework of much higher stakes, like much bigger stories, bigger cast of characters, more stuff happening, that makes the romance more exciting, and the romance makes the other stuff more exciting. And so what I had talked with Carrie Farron, my editor, our editor at the time, about doing is...
This is at Avon.
At Avon, and doing a super high stakes, big book, a historical fiction novel, but with a complete full-blooded, full-bore historical romance within it. One of the problems I've always had with, quote, respectable historical fiction or literary fiction is that there's this weird consensus that somehow a relationship ends at the bedroom door. That nothing that would happen sexually would change the relationship or impact the relationship. It's this weird separation, and I've never been able to see how you want to explore a relationship, but then, oh, what happens in the bedroom? That's either not important or, we're not interested in that. Because, as we all know, it's tremendously important.
Right.
And things are said in the bedroom and happen in the bedroom. And I've always seen the point of having a detailed love scene. I think Heated Rivalry is a good example of that, where you're exploring the relationship, including in the bedroom. And so I wanted to do all of that, like a big, big book with everything. And so unfortunately, Carrie Farron had to leave Avon, and it's now it's Simon & Schuster. But I was very fortunate after that great beginning with Carrie to get Mei Chen, my current editor, and she is a real gift. She has an ability to look across all these different kind of sectors and genres of publishing and kind of to see how we can pull together all of this to how we can publish a book like this, basically. So she's been really great, really supportive. And I can't wait for the cover for this book to come out. But
So can you talk a little bit about what the book is?
Yes. So the essence of the story is there is a female economist, which there were back in 1880. And she is from the outside of society. She was born illegitimate. She's half Spanish, child of a Spanish dancer and an English banker. And the book starts basically when she goes into a bank and she wants to open her own bank account. At this point, she's made some money. She knows all about banking and finance and goes in there. And no, you can't open a bank account on your own. You need a man to oversee it. Like, you have to attach a male cousin, father, husband, some man has to be overlooking this. She's like, I don't have any. I'm not married, no brother, illegitimate, no legal relatives. And so she's really stuck. And they're on the verge of like denying her a bank account. And she realizes this is so important for women. Like, I have to start a bank for women to be able to come in and have some financial power over their own lives. And so that's just where she starts out with. At the same time, she has also hired a staff of servants who are all paroled prisoners, because at this point, you can't hire servants very easily. Nobody wants to be a servant anymore. So you've got this very motley crew of paroled prisoners, and they're all from the outside side of society, just like she is. And she eventually discovers that her butler, a very sexy, cool butler, who's Welsh, is actually an undercover detective who's been hired to investigate potential crime, white-collar crime, committed by her mentor, who's her partner in this banking business. So it's this really fun, exciting blend of her dream of getting the bank established. The stability of the British economy is threatened by this potential crime. You've got this undercover butler. You've got these parole prisoners who may fuck up to the point that they're going to get sent back to prison and this found family will disappear. And there are a lot of moving parts, but I structured it, I think, kind of like a roller coaster ride where you've got tremendous forward velocity. Then you build. Maybe there's a pause to reflect on everything, and then all of a sudden, tremendous explosion of movement. So it's just a really well-paced, if I do say so myself, fast-paced story. It's also twice as long as a lot of my books. It's like 150 something thousand words. So it's a
That's a big book. Yeah.
It's a big book with a lot going on in it. But this is the book that, if I die, I'm happy that I've written this book because I think it will live on for a while. I certainly hope so.
Oh, good. Well, I mean, we can't wait to read it. We're just waiting for arcs to arrive.
I will make sure you get them. I'm dying for you to read it.
So here we are. So we've now covered all of the historical story, but in the middle there, you went off and you wrote a bunch of contemporaries. So could you talk about that shift?
Yes. It's again sort of the strategy of you've got to keep challenging
Was that
yourself.
late 90s? Late 90s,
No,
right?
that was 2000s.
No, later than that, no?
I think around the 2010, 2009.
Well, you moved away from, you left Avon for a little while. You went over to St. Martin's Press. And there you published The Hathaways, which we didn't spend a ton of time talking about, but Love in the Afternoon is great. Everybody should read it. And then you did Friday Harbor. Yeah.
I did a Friday
Eve at
Harbor Magic Realism series, and I did a Texas-based series
and they came after, right? No.
They
2007 was Sugar Daddy, Blue Eyed Devil. 2008,
oh my God, so
Smooth Talking Stranger. 2009.
Oh yeah. And
so let's talk about those, because let's talk about Lisa Kleypas's Texas heroes, because
Hardy Cates.
Wowzer.
Yeah, I was nervous as hell starting to write those, because I was like, I want to make sure that whatever thing I do in the historicals, has some resonance here in these contemporaries too. And it's, I was born in Texas, a lot of relatives in Texas, so I was familiar with that setting. And to me, the contemporary setting allowed me to explore things like domestic violence, recovery. There was Smooth Talking Stranger, and there was a lot of stuff about church corruption of these big mega churches. So, it was really fun to address contemporary issues. I think, in retrospect, I think they could have, they did fine, they did great, but I think they could have been even bigger had we toyed with the packaging a bit. But at the time, sort of a hybrid book like that, romance with women's fiction, with issues, wasn't really being done. And now it's being done a lot, I think.
That's just the thing that I want to talk about. I want to talk about Sugar Daddy a little bit, because, you talk about Queen of Lombard Street as being sort of a big book that does multiple things. It's both romance and not romance. And I think Sugar Daddy sort of edges up on that.
Oh, Sarah, I don't know if you remember this, but before Lisa talks about her, can I tell you, I think the first time you and I connected was because of Sugar Daddy. Because you were asking on Twitter for books that had a kind of a delayed romance.
And Sugar Daddy. And
I was like, Sugar Daddy.
I was like, oh God, of course.
Yeah, right. And no, literally, that's what you said. And I was like, Sarah McLean knows who I am. It's fine. Now look at us
talking to Lisa Kleypas about it. Okay, but Liberty has, her arc is very circuitous to romance, right? She starts off with the billionaire older husband. Or not husband.
No, actually, she
Wait, am I talking about the wrong book?
She's kind of in love with Hardy, but then
there's another
goes.
He's her high school. Okay, no, I know what you're thinking of. It's her mother had a long ago affair with a billionaire, this rich old billionaire. I actually based him on Jim Rogers, the big financier who actually was from is it Alabama? I can't remember now. But anyway, so her mother had an affair with him long ago. Her mother dies, and her mother had another relationship with a man, has a little sister. So Liberty's life becomes taking care of this little sister, somehow putting herself through beauty school, putting a life together with the two of them. And she has this high school romance that's very intense and passionate with Hardy Cates. And then later on, when she becomes kind of a live-in caregiver to this billionaire,
right?
Who's broken his leg, she starts getting to know the family and starts getting involved with one of the sons, who's really hot, handsome,
this book.
Great. And to me, the story explored her life and her development.
Exactly.
But it also, I think it really confused some people, because the setup, you expect that it will lead one way, and really to me, it's not necessarily the same kind of guy that you would choose in your 20s that you did in high school, right? Do you know what I mean?
And
So
Hardy isn't the hero of that book.
Mm-mm.
He's the hero of the next book. He has an arc. But he's so present in that first book that I remember reading that and feeling like, oh, this is something different. Like Lisa Kleypas is doing something very different here. And it felt big. And so I'm curious because it feels like, I know, I guess what I'm asking is, did you know that you went off to St. Martin's Press to write this kind of different kind of thing?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And did you feel like publishing wasn't ready for this kind of romance hybrid?
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know. I don't think that my editor, who was wonderful, Jen Enderlin, I don't think she was sure either, because it's, I mean, to me, hybridity is a wonderful thing. And I think that's absolutely where romance is going, where the romance genre is going now. But at the time, there was much more of a sense of, we'll pick one thing, or pick your lane and stay in your lane. And to me, you need to give the story whatever sorts of angles and interesting shapes as you can. Like I hate the idea that we have to follow some template.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's only interesting if we're playing with it a bit.
And I think that this is really a hallmark of your work. I feel like when you look back on the full kind of bibliography of your work, it feels like you are an author who is always sort of trying something a little bit different. You did the magical realism, you switched over for the Texas books, felt very, like you were doing something much different than other contemporaries were doing. I think about, doing the Russian books, which are, weird. Those romances are,
they're weird.
And cool, but very weird. And
yes, I mean, you have to try different things,
This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by Lumi Gummies. Consistent, mellow, and super delicious, Lumi Gummies are specifically designed to make you feel good, not stoned. Whether you're looking for an end-of-day de-stressor, a midday mood boost, or help getting the best sleep ever, Lumi Gummies has a strain that's right for you.
Well, so listen, everybody's looking for an end-of-day de-stressor, or a middle of the day or beginning of the day de-stressor these days.
All day de-stressing.
But I have a funny story because obviously Lumi has been a generous sponsor of the podcast for a long time. In fact, I think they might have been our first sponsor.
I think so.
But not long ago, a friend of mine whose husband had traveled to China for work, called me up about 2 days before he was returning. And she said, "Hey, tell me about those gummies that you talk about all the time on the podcast." And I had talked about, when I got back from Oceania, using Lumi gummies to get myself back on track for the jet lag. And listen, nothing is going to get you 100% back on track from like going around the planet, but these actually do help. And so I said, come on over. And I packed up a little care package of Lumi gummies for my friend who was just home from the other side of the world. And I laughed and laughed, and I thought, I'm going to have something to say on the next ad that they run for us. But listen, consistent, mellow, super delicious, and great for when you've traveled the world and are feeling a little jet laggy.
Amazing. So Lumi Gummies are available nationwide. Go to lumigummies.com. That's LUMI gummies.com and use the code FATEDMATES for 30% off your first order. Again, that's LUMI gummies.com, code FATEDMATES. lumigummies.com, code FATEDMATES. And as always, thanks to Lumi Gummies for sponsoring this week's episode.
The Hathaways, I think, is a very distinctive historical series. And I started out by imagining like the Beverly Hillbillies in Victorian England. Because I was like, what if you take a family like the Beverly Hillbillies that have never been anywhere near the aristocracy or an estate or a mansion. I mean, these are very quirky people. Father's a scholar. They're raised in some cute little hamlet somewhere. And these are very colorful, quirky, strange people. And all of a sudden you take this group and for reasons and through things that happen, they end up kind of being forced into this lifestyle of here's a mansion. Now the brother who's a druggie and alcoholic, now he's Lord Ramsay. And none of them know what the hell they're doing. And to top it all off, this house is falling apart because I love fixer-uppers. I love fixer-upper stories. I don't know what it is. HGTV, it's like totally me. So I think it was very unusual because there wasn't a single aristocrat save for this alcoholic brother who doesn't really count.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess my question here is how... Were there moments where, did you ever pitch an idea where an editor was like, no, that won't work? Or at this point, did you feel, and a lot of people sort of shy away from saying yes to this question but I hope, whatever, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is, or did you feel like, well, at this point, I'm Lisa Kleypas, and that means like people will take this risk with me. They'll go on this journey with me.
Yeah, I felt, that's one of the benefits of having been in the industry a while, having some staying power, is that there's a certain amount of trust. And I know that my editors were sure, because I assured them, that there would always be the elements that are necessary for my readers to feel satisfied. Like I know what my readers want and try my best to make sure that they have it. So there are certain elements of the story, the sex, but also the historical research, and also, I don't know what you would call it, like a comfort factor. Like my readers have to come away with a little bit of like a Ted Lasso feeling. Does that sound crazy? You know what I mean? Just like comfort, like to feel better after they read them. And, so I think that if you include those elements, then you can experiment and do different things because everyone knows, well, at the very least, I will be getting these things.
Yeah. So let's talk about readers for a little bit, because I feel like romance is one of those, is a genre. It's probably the genre outside of YA that has real, readers are very present in genre. They're very present with authors. They're reaching out to us. They're even before social media. They're writing letters. They're a part of the ecosystem in a really powerful way. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about those kind of early reader experiences. Did you feel like, you came in, you were writing through the 80s when romance was just booming. And I just feel like you have a perspective on how readers were engaging with the text and with authors. Can you talk a little bit about those early days and how readers were a part of that?
Yes, I realized the more that I put of my own sort of fears, vulnerabilities, things like that into the books, the more the readers respond because they want that intensity. They want that vulnerability. And there is something about the historical setting that if you want to explore an issue, it's easier for readers to engage with it in a little bit of a remove in that setting. Sometimes it's easier to do that than to confront the same issue in a contemporary setting. So the more that I started to engage with issues and characters and baggage and pain and things like that, the more readers seem to feel intensely about my books and even me. And so when I realized what was happening, it was things like I went on a book tour to Spain, which is one of the best experiences I've ever had in my entire life. And this was, I think, just before The Wallflowers got published. And these women in Spain, like I went to like 3 or 4 different places in Spain, and I actually had groups like following me from each city to like another city because they were just so full of joy and passion and so excited. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that in another country that these readers feel that way. And then I came back and there were experiences like doing book signings for Blue Eyed Devil. And they were very slow, long book signings because there were so many women coming up to me, really moved emotionally, even crying and wanting to tell me about their experiences of narcissists or abusive husbands and about their recoveries and about their pain or what should I do? I'm trapped in this. So it became very, very personal.
Yeah.
And I've never forgotten there are real women reading our books who have real lives and real problems. They're never a faceless mass to me. Like when I lost everything I owned in a flood in 98. And, I've told this story where we were able to kind of pick up some essentials at Walmart after having lost everything, like the house, all men clothes, everything. One of the things that I stuck in my cart as an essential was a romance novel. And those are just the most horrendous nights where you're sitting in the motel bathroom floor while the husband and child are in the next room. You're trying not to wake them up. And you're like, what am I going to do? I mean, I've lost everything. What about this? What about that? And the only thing that kept me sane was reading this romance novel. And it wasn't necessarily the best romance novel, but I was grateful to have it. But that was important to me because I thought, if there's ever a woman sitting on the bathroom floor reading a book for comfort or for just whatever, if it's mine, it better be the best book that I can do. And so I think there's not a single novel I've written since 1998 where I haven't been aware that somebody might be reading it who really needs it. So I feel like a sense of mission, calling. I always have. And I think my readers know that and understand that.
These episodes become really important, I think, for the history of the genre because so few people have written. There's basically nothing written about the genre at this point historically. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about two things. One, I'd love to hear about your community of writers or the people who over the course of your career provided mentorship, support, love. Maybe there aren't any, but I'm pretty sure there are. And then I would love to hear about, the advocates that you had in publishing, in the in-house or, agents, people who really stood up for Lisa.
Yeah, I think the flood is an example of the romance community. When this happened to me, the word went out and all these Avon authors, I'm talking like almost 30 authors, all started sending me things like clothes for the baby and, things for my husband and me. Here's a, pair of jeans from my husband. Maybe they'll fit your husband. So Julia Quinn sent me a Halloween costume because this happened right before Halloween. And so it was for my little boy, Griffin, and which was so tremendously kind. And I just couldn't believe how loving, how powerful the whole thing was. I mean, you feel very alone when a disaster happens, and to immediately be reassured, no, you're not alone. You have all of us. I mean, that was just an incredible experience. So yeah, I mean, I think going to conferences, going to workshops, that community with other writers was just life-saving, and it also improved my writing quite a bit. I mean, advice from people like Jenny Cruzy. I mean, I could just follow her around with a tape recorder and just get her advice all the time. There are amazing writers who have shared their wisdom. I think the editors that I've had, I've really been grateful for. They have taught me, with each editor, I've really learned a lot, and they've really supported me. So, I just think that it's kind of like I could either give you, 300 names or,
right.
I've really been grateful for that support. I mean, when I wrote the Wallflowers, I belonged to this wonderful little group. We called ourselves Squawk Radio. And so it was fun because we just blogged together, and it was a tremendous group. Eloisa was one of them, and I think that power of female friendship and community really helped that series become what it was. So yeah.
Obviously, we feel really strongly that you belong in this kind of trailblazer space. And I wonder if you could talk about the mark of Lisa on the genre. Do you feel like you are aware that you have left this or are leaving this mark? And if so, what is that in your mind?
Well, thank you. I always feel like you guys should answer that, because it's hard to kind of look objectively at my own stuff. I know that I've wanted to write to as high a quality as I could, and that has made it an exciting challenge. I think bringing in working class people and all the intensity that those types of characters bring with them has hopefully left a mark. I'm trying to. I mean, like, I don't know. You would probably have to answer it more than me. But
we'll say it.
We'll answer.
It'll be in the text.
In the post roll. Yeah.
No, but I think you're really right. I mean, for me, it feels like, and one of the reasons why Jen and I have talked so much about Derek Craven over the years is because he does feel, and this is not to say, one of the things that we struggle with a lot here is it's very difficult to find firsts, right? And you always feel a little guilty when you're like, well, I think this might be the first, because there's so many romance novels and we haven't read them all, and it's never the first. There's always someone who did it before, right?
We try.
Right. Oh yeah, I've tried to read them all. That's my goal. I'm working real hard at it. We try, but I think there's also this kind of question of like, well, there are obviously like firsts, but then there are the ones that somehow there's some spark in them, and tons of people have read them, and they really do become, books on the tree of romance. Branches on the tree of romance. And I think you're right. I think Derek Craven feels transformational. Like, I don't think there were as many heroes. There were way, way fewer heroes like him before he existed than after. And all of your heroes, I feel like, come from that sort of DNA. So I think you're right.
I appreciate having a day more than I could ever express to the two of you.
I would like to know, at what point were you apprised of the fact that there was a holiday?
Carrie told me, and I couldn't believe it. I was so floored, and I was just so thrilled because it's Derek is not mentioned. I don't think until y'all started this day, I don't think he was mentioned as much as like St. Vincent or the more recent heroes, and yet I've always known, for me, Derek was a key change in my career. Yeah, he started my career. I mean, like, I don't know what my career would be like without having written him. And so for you to do this,
well, I would argue St. Vincent doesn't exist without Derek Craven. So quite literally in the text.
I mean, a man has to find himself in a gambling hall. And it doesn't, one time he's coming from one way and one time he's coming from the other.
Exactly.
But arguably the same.
Gambling is the key, though.
Exactly. Yeah. But the reason why, Lisa will tell you that the reason why this day exists is because this goes back to our Twitter days when Jen and I both, on separate years, I think, discussed, this was before the podcast even existed, how amazing, how we both felt that, I think the exact tweet was something like, there are two kinds of Lisa Kleypas fans in the world, the ones who think Derek Craven is best and the ones who are wrong. That was when we chose violence on the internet.
Yeah, now we're just a model of decorum everywhere we go.
So, but Jen, why don't you explain our game?
Okay. So if my memory serves, this game really dates back to the days of the pandemic, when we did a great episode with Kate Claiborne, and we had all these people writing in. We would always say, like, Derek Craven would never, just like, like some terrible thing has happened, but Derek Craven would never participate.
This is not a heroic act. Derek Craven would never.
Right. Derek Craven
Yes.
would never. And we had a bunch of readers who like wrote in with questions, and then like we did, which is still one of my all-time favorite episodes. Like I will listen to it and really laugh. Sort of question. So like here's one. Like one I will always remember was like someone was like, would Derek Craven leave you at home with the kids during a pandemic, right? And and Kate was like, boy, people are really going through it, right? So we have all these, and some of them are about like pop culture, right? Some of them are about other romances. Like one of my favorites is, would Derek Craven let out a breath he didn't know he was holding? And according to our readers, 69% said Derek Craven
We actually
would.
ran polls.
Right? 31% Derek Craven would never let out a breath he didn't know he's holding, right? But then like there's some where like clearly everyone knows the right answer. This will a test, Lisa, to see if you can do the rest of these. Would Derek Craven buy you tampons?
Oh, yes. Yes.
See, exactly.
We all
And
agree.
97% of our readers were like, obviously. So what we have for you today is we have some Would Derek Craven questions. We are going straight to the source. That's you. You
Okay.
are
Our
you
listeners are going to be so excited, by the way.
yes. And by the way, most of these questions, I'm going to tell you, this is actually funny, have come from my friend Ernie, who has never read Dreaming of You, but these are his favorite episodes. And he feels as a man, he just intuitively understands.
Well, what I
everything
have
about
to
Derek
say
Craven.
is
that's great.
not having
Yeah.
read Dreaming of You, Ernie, it has a 100% accuracy
Yes.
rate about
Wow.
in Derek Craven
Yeah.
would never.
So he's part
He'll listen
Derek. He's part Derek.
Yes. I think all men probably are. He
I don't know
listens
that
to the
all men
episodes
are,
and
by
then
the way.
okay. But Ernie is. He listens to the episodes and then he'll like text me, like he'll be like, okay, so the question is, would Derek Craven know what a spreadsheet is? And he would tell me what he thinks. Okay,
we
that's not
figured
your
the
question.
answer, by the way, was no, he has Worthy for that. He has a factotum for a
Yes.
spreadsheet.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, correct.
Great.
Correct. A really funny one was, would Derek Craven let Sarah get LASIK eye surgery?
Sarah
No.
Fielding.
No, of course
Oh,
not.
no.
Because he loves her little spectacles.
That's
See?
right. That's right.
Okay, so clearly you are a pro. You understand it all
You are a
already.
pro.
And like I said, you are the pro. Okay, ready? Okay.
Okay.
This one actually was asked by Ernie and someone on our Discord. Everyone wants to know. And I wasn't sure you would know, but you've already
I may
mentioned
not
this,
know.
so
Okay. Yeah.
you will. Would Derek Craven watch Heated Rivalry?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, look at that.
Okay.
No
But-
hesitation.
No hesitation. Yeah. Although Ernie's point was he'd probably make a lot of like funny jokes about it while he was watching. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Derek is not uptight about any. He's seen it all.
Oh, that's
He's seen it all.
true.
So yeah,
That is
so
true.
he's,
Yeah.
Yeah. He has really very few hangups. In that way.
In that way. Good point. See? I knew you would just
So useful. So useful to have the source.
so
Just
great. The source right here.
Be careful,
telling us.
Lisa. After this, we're going to text
I know.
you just
I'll
randomly.
be texting you.
Lisa,
What
would
does
Derek
Derek think
Craven...
about
I must know. Okay. When Derek Craven donates money to charity, would he do it anonymously?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, tell us more.
Tell us
Well,
more.
You have to explain your
Yes.
reasoning. I'm like, Zap.
I think there are a lot of things that he does for the showiness of it, for his image, but when it comes to charity, like he just wants to do the good that it's going to do. He doesn't want attention for that. Do you know what I mean? He wants everyone to know that he's important and has what he thinks is good taste, which is just a lot of decorations everywhere. But in terms of like giving something to an orphanage, no, he doesn't want that.
To be
There's
okay.
also probably a perception issue here. Like, he doesn't want to be perceived as being soft.
yeah,
Oh yeah. That's in there too.
right. Both and
Yes.
right. Okay. Okay. Does Derek Craven clean his own gutters?
No.
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 No. No explanation required for that. He's like, no. Okay. This one really made me laugh. Does Derek Craven use 3-in-1 shampoo?
I think he's going to use fancy shampoo. So no, not that. I think he'd use some sort of, Shiseido for men or something. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, agree. Yeah, no, agree.
it would be like
he would love that. The reason is one of my favorite all time. There's like a tweet I use, or a post from Threads I use all the time as a meme. I send it to Sarah all the time, where it's like a woman saying, "I'm not going to fight with a straight man. Go use your 3-in-1 shampoo." And that is the genesis of that question. Okay. Would Derek Craven use frequent flyer miles, like a frequent flyer mile program, to accumulate points?
Oh, interesting.
That's a good. That is a tough one. I mean, I think he would leave it up to Worthy to get him the frequent flyer number, and Worthy would. So like he wouldn't have a problem with it, but I think that's one of those make Worthy do it.
Yeah, he wouldn't know what that is.
He wouldn't. Yeah,
He
he'd
has
just be like,
club
I just want to be
access,
on this plane.
and that is simply how is not his business.
Exactly.
I was like, that's why it's such a good question. Would Derek Craven play ice hockey? And then if not, what would his sport
Ooh, does
be?
he play sport?
Yeah, does he sport?
Oh man, I don't know. Now that's a tough one.
It feels.
I don't know. That is a tough one. I mean, I think hockey is as good a sport for him as any.
It's
if he's
a
going
rough
to do
and
a sport.
tumble sport.
Yes,
Sure,
yeah.
yes.
So I think,
I mean, he's not going to play polo. You know,
no.
Derek Craven does not play golf.
I think he would be good at a real physical, slightly mean sport. So yes, I think he would.
Okay.
I think he.
I mean,
a
he
great
can throw
answer,
a
yeah.
punch, but I'm not sure he's
Yeah.
interested in like the Marquis of Queensberry's rules for.
No.
So
If he fights
it's
it
UFC.
to win,
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
exactly.
That's, very smart. Okay.
I have one from Maggie Takuta Hall, who is the president of Authors Against Book Bans, and texted this to me. I will say she did not know anything about this episode or would Derek Craven, but she was like, I have a question about Derek Craven. Would Derek Craven tell or enjoy dad jokes?
Well, if Sarah told them that,
Sarah told them.
yeah, you know what? Like the whole thing that I like about Derek in Dreaming of You is that he is recapturing his innocence and his sense of fun and playful. Like life was always so hard and bitter for him and mean and has an edge, and she brings that softness to him. So I think she could probably get him to the point where he would laugh at those. But would he tell one? I don't know, but I think he would laugh at one. If only if she was around. If her dad told one, definitely he would laugh.
Sure. I mean, what else can you do? I'm reading our Discord and someone made a really funny, I don't know if you've gotten as far enough in Heated Rivalry to understand this, either of you, but there's a point where Ilya really appreciates Shane's glasses. And so someone was like, clearly this would, he would appreciate Ilya appreciating Shane's glasses.
Yes,
Yeah, they would have like a brotherhood situation.
Yeah, they have like a little bromance
spectacles.
situation. Yeah, I also, glasses on.
Exactly.
It's great. You'll get to that moment and remember this.
Rachel Reed loves Lisa Kleypas, obviously.
Of course. Obviously. It's an homage.
Well, I love her now. Now that I've still got to read the books, but those first couple of episodes were great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And this show is beat for beat, the book. You'll love it.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh,
it's
great.
So good. Okay, I have two more, and then we'll see if Sarah has any. Okay, so would Derek Craven have an espresso machine in his kitchen?
Yes. All the
fanciest.
all the latest stuff. Yeah.
Most expensive.
Absolutely. Up to date. Yes.
Top of the
Not
line.
a
Yeah, right.
Nespresso.
Okay.
He has like the whole shebang.
Built into the wall. Special.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Follow-up question. Does he know how to use it?
No. Worthy does that.
Okay. Last one. Another pop culture one. Would Derek Craven win every game of Traders he ever played?
Oh, he would win it, though.
Oh, he would 100% win it.
Yes. Yeah.
The answer is
absolutely.
yes.
I was like,
1,000%.
yeah, that's why I was like, that's a good question to end with because I think we all know the answer to that.
Yes.
But win it, Traders, and buy you tampons. What a man!
My new favorite version of what Derek Craven involves just going straight to the source.
Straight to the source.
Well, it's fun for me
Now
too.
it's like Trivial
Fun for me too.
Pursuit. Replay, and then Lisa just gives us the answer. Did we get it right or
Yes.
not? Lisa, I don't think it will surprise you that we adore you here at Theta Mates, and we are so thrilled
I adore you too.
that you have made time for us. And thank you. I mean, my God, we love your books so much.
so much.
They have transformed us in a million ways. And I'm so grateful to you as a person and a writer and a just person in my life. So
thank you. Well, this has been a real gift to me. I appreciate it. And especially after having been away for so long, to come back with my two friends is wonderful. So thank you.
Well, this episode runs on Derek Craven Day. So happy Derek Craven Day to you.
You too.
And also the new book, the book is out. Queen of Lombard Street is out in the fall. Give us some information.
Yes, October 20th, I believe. And it'll be hardcover. And like I said, it's going to be a really big whopper of a book. So I'm hoping that my readers will enjoy it and give it a shot. And especially because there's another Welsh hero in there. So if they liked Winterborn, then I think they'll enjoy this one. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We can find you online at lisakleypas.com.
Yes, I'm going to be redoing my website. I mean, I just kind of let go of a lot of things and now am coming back into the whole swing of things. So yes, I'm going to be redoing that, but I'm going to start checking my Instagram and being a human being again.
We'll put in show notes, we'll put all the information about Lisa in general, Lisa's books, anything else that we talked about as always, but also we will make sure that we have your Instagram account there, your website there. Follow Lisa on BookBub, follow Lisa on Goodreads and Amazon, and make sure that you are ready to go in October when Queen of Lombard Street comes out. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us.
I love you both. Thank you. This has been wonderful.
Sarah, I'm not going to lie to you. Lisa Kleypas knows who I am.
That's it. You've reached, it's like peak romance moment here. This is like, if I ever do a Trailblazer interview with you, Jen, I'll be like, when did you know? You'll be like, the day Lisa Kleypas knew who I was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Susan Elizabeth Phillips had a similar effect on me. I believe that was like the first time we ever interviewed somebody I grew up reading.
Yeah.
And I was literally like beside myself. Now I feel like I'm like, okay, I've met a lot of people. It's been pretty cool.
But Lisa.
Yeah, no, it was amazing.
She's a delight. Delight. She has been around forever. She has such a remarkable way of thinking about her career. She has such a strong memory of her career.
Yes.
She really understands what she was trying to do with all of her books.
I mean, I was especially happy that you asked her, right, about like St. Vincent, like sort of that feeling that some authors get that certain books are almost I like how she said it, right, like a deeper place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really interesting to hear authors sort of talk about what happens when they know they have lightning in a bottle, either because of a character or because of an idea. And, the idea that, the writing of Derek Craven was something that was an itch she just knew she had to scratch in that way.
I think that's true. I think I think what's really fascinating about Lisa, and I brought this up in the conversation, but she is not, she sort of said, oh, well, I did some soul searching and I decided I wanted to do something different. And so Queen of Lombard Street happened. Right. And I think, certainly it sounds like Queen of Lombard Street really is a departure in a lot of ways. Though it also sounds like it is a romance. There is a romance in there. But I can't help but think about the fact that this morning when I was preparing for this conversation, I really was thinking she's been all over. She wrote America. She wrote Russia. She's written, different parts of American history. She's written Regency. She's written Victorian. And then she did the Texas, the magical realism in the Pacific Northwest. There is when Lisa has an idea, she just sort of pours it onto the page and finds space for it. And I think, obviously, and she mentioned this too, there's a luxury to being able to do that. I mean, that not every writer is able to do that. But I think, she really is a force. She's written so many different things, and all of them, including the weird ones, just hit really well.
You kept calling the Rush books strange or
Weird.
weird. I couldn't remember.
Weird.
I was like, okay, but you're just talking directly
first of
to
all,
her.
I didn't keep calling them weird. They are weird though, right? Like they're magical. Like one of them has a dream. Like 150 pages of it is a dream. Like there are, and I think she understood that what I was saying about those, but I think everybody who listens also understands that, like, I love a weird book.
We as readers of the genre, devoted readers of the genre, know that not all the books are the same, right? It's people outside the genre who sort of want to believe that, every single one of them is, like just a blueprint of the other ones. And so having an author sort of talk about, the ways in which, you want to take an idea and like refract it a little bit, and both the kind of the way you can get like more juice out of that orange, but also the way it's invigorating to you as a writer. I thought that was really powerful.
I think that's so true. And it really made me feel like there are some authors who, and we've talked about them, and who like can hit it straight over the plate every single time. They throw a fastball every single time, and it is fast and no one can hit it every single time, right? And then I think there is a whole separate set of authors that are always, and she said, "Oh, I have ADHD," and that's where a lot of the creativity comes from. And I think that's interesting, and an interesting way of sort of framing it, how she frames it to herself. And I think she is clearly an author who lives outside of that she throws every different, a million different kinds of pitches. And there's something really risky and fearless about that. And I love it. Obviously.
Obviously this whole podcast, generally speaking, is very reader focused, right? It's like a reader facing podcast. This is the work we are doing. You and I come to the space as readers. We're talking about the reader's experience. We're talking about the experience of reading these books. And yet the Trailblazers are a real departure in some ways. Now we're really instead asking people, okay, now we want to know about like the work of the writing of it, and the careers, and the longitudinal outside of any individual text. It's not like something that we tend to do a lot of. And so it's really interesting to hear and like recognize how important it is for people to like how people refill the creative well in different ways, and how that works for different people. And, both time, just writing different things, reading different things, and I also thought the one other thing that I thought was really interesting is obviously everyone we talk to loves reading, but, her experience of just sort of, going to Louisa May Alcott's house and, I think that was also very interesting to me. She wasn't saying like, yeah, I just grew up reading romance and that's all I've ever done. Like it clearly also comes from a very different place in her.
Yeah.
Right.
1,000%. I mean, I was also really interested in how she thinks about the books that are transformational for her. And it was interesting, of course, to hear her say, like, yes, it was Derek Craven. Yes, it was St. Vincent. It was also Winterborn. And I think that's really powerful. Like, knowing it's because I think, obviously, as readers, those are the three, like you said. And, you brought up those three as being kind of different. And I think they obviously are. But I also think, like, those are three. I feel like Lisa writes, the DNA of those three heroes all like in every book, right? There's maybe a Lisa Kleypas tree too, right?
Yeah, right.
And the person, I just want to say, the person who referred to her as industry and me as crime is Sanj. Oh, that's, it's funny. As
was
I
a
was saying it,
video.
I was like,
It
I
sounds like
bet
Sanj
that it was, yeah,
also.
I know. And I was kind of like, I bet it was Sanj, but I didn't want to like sort of, but I figured you would know. And I also didn't prep you. I was like, was it on Twitter? I mean, sometimes now I'm like, where did those things happen? I don't know. But yeah, I thought that was and I thought that was a really good point, because I do think that there's a way that like, I mean, my favorite Kleypas books are about, like I said, the intersection of like sort of masculinity and work, right? And one of the things that like we really explicitly see in St. Vincent is that when he discovers work,
Yeah.
right, he becomes a better man.
Yeah. I mean, I love that
Literally.
I thought of Kate. Lisa likes a man who has a chore, right? Lisa likes a man who, like she said, a man rolls his shirt sleeves up and picks up a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
oh yeah.
yeah, that's how I think of her characters. And I also think, as she was talking about that, I was really thinking about how much those books and her heroes have transformed the rest of the genre. You know, we talk about Trailblazers, and yes, of course, we talk about Derek Craven as being Trailblazer for being a blue, like, not even a blue collar hero, but like a kind of really like a hero who was born literally in a drain pipe, right? So obviously with, Derek Craven walked so many others could run, but there's also this kind of, I really don't think historical would have made it to blue collar heroes, to like working heroes for a long time without Lisa.
Without, kind of jump starting that, right? Well, and it's sort of fascinating. I think the other thing, I like her describing Ellen Edwards. Is that the right name? Ellen, yeah. Sort of pausing, right? Knowing what they sort of thought or believed about like which books would sell.
There's nothing sexy about Derek on paper. Like
right, right.
And then on paper, there's two kinds of
on paper. Correct. No, and so I thought that was also really interesting, because it does feel now like, right, like in fact, it's almost, I mean, he's extraordinary though. I mean, I do think in that sense, right, that's what a great romance main character, a memorable romance main character, somehow does ride a fine line between extraordinary in some way, but also highly relatable. I mean, I think a lot about what we heard Jane Ann Krentz say a few weeks ago, which is, right, they see the hero in each other. And I think that is, right, her identifying Sarah didn't treat him different.
No.
Sarah didn't treat anybody different.
And the way she talks about Sarah in the sense of, like, Sarah is almost the unique character in that book. It felt like, to Lisa's mind, like, yes, Derek Craven has never existed before in romance, big air quotes, has never existed. But Sarah is so exceptional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I did really want to ask the question about like her heroines.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did.
Because it wasn't like on the list. Sometimes it's just like when I hear people talk, because I obviously am very heroine aligned as a reader. And I'd love, maybe you're like, sure, Jen, but I think it is really interesting for me. One of the reasons I really do love like the Wallflowers and the Ravenels is because of the way those women are part of, like, it's insane to me to hear about, like being told like, if the ties that bind these books together are women, people won't read them, because like, what are you talking about? And yet, to me, I do think like Pandora, it is to me like a kind of romance heroine where when I read that book, I was like, oh, she's so much more memorable and interesting on the page, a real true radical. In a way that, like, Gabriel just thinks he's a radical. Gabriel's like, I like real dirty in the bedroom. And his own father's like, oh, please, And I think that's the part. It's like, then he meets a real radical. And that, to me, is the joy of that book is
someone who thinks he is a revolutionary meeting a real one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Can we also talk about Derek Craven would watch Heated Rivalry and her explanation why? Because instinctively I was like, yeah, sure, for sure.
But then,
and then when
the
she's
why,
like,
that's...
he has no hangups. Like, he's seen it
that
all.
Was a great answer. Yeah.
Man, I do not think I could play that game for literally any of my heroes. So, bless. I really think it is amazing that she was willing to do that with us because... gosh, that was so fun. And I loved, I just think I'm so excited for Queen of Lombard Street. I'm so excited to see what she does with this sort of more expansive project, like 150,000
I was
words.
going to say, I don't know if people understand that is a
big
book.
honkin' book, everybody. Like her regular degular romances are probably about 85,000 words. So it's half again at least. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the idea of, I think Lisa has she's such a force in historicals that I think this will hopefully bring more people to her backlist. It'll bring more people to the genre. And I also think she's so thoughtful about what is... I think she does take really seriously, like so many of the Trailblazer interviews, her role in this work.
Back to like the Queen of Lombard Street being more like historical fiction, right? With like a romance kind of embedded in it. I imagine that some readers feel that like this is an author like turning its back on the genre. And I just don't think that's true. It's not true for a lot of people. And for some people it might be, right?
Yep.
Or, but I think all authors as artists really get to pursue whatever course it is that's going to, get them excited and, keep them writing. And it's really interesting to have someone like Lisa figure out just like kind of where those edges are for her. And I'm sure that, maybe there are going to be people who are like, I just want it to be, St. Vincent over and over again, but like she's never done that.
Yep. Agreed. I mean, and I think that's the thing that I keep coming back to as a hardcore Lisa Kleypas fan is that she changes it up every time. I mean, yeah. And it continues to hit. And I think also the books, one of the things that now, of course, we do this as a post game, right? And one of the things I wish that I had sort of pushed her on was I wonder if she could talk about how the books have evolved over time intentionally. Like, did she choose to, write the Hathaways in that way, that sort of Beverly Hillbillies? I loved that, right? That Beverly Hillbillies idea, was it, did she feel called to write it that way? Why are the Ravenel books the way that they are? They are a departure from the earlier series in many ways, thematically. So I don't know. I always end up at the end of these conversations feeling like I could have gone another 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah. 100%. I always love every Trailblazer. It's been a while since we've recorded one. Back when we were doing them all the time, it just felt like, but every single one of them just feels like a real gift and a way that we are telling our story to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been thinking a lot, obviously, and I know you have, about community recently and about like our work in community and what we're doing and our purpose. And I think a lot of people are obviously feeling this way, just sort of like, what are we doing? And I think that the fact that these interviews are collected now is essential. And I think it is giving space to our history in a way that is really important. I mean, listening to her talk, and we've heard other people say this too, but this idea of like women always being the B plot. And then, her speaking to your heated rivalry really feeling important, right? And I know we've all been feeling that way. Heated rivalry feels important, but it feels good to know that it feels important to all of us, you know?
Right. Or that like romance people really clock what does feel extraordinary about it is, you know, seeing what we love most in these books being communicated so faithfully on the screen. So
anyway, she's the best, everyone. And that was a really great interview. And I'm so glad she came. And I'm so glad she came on Derek Craven Day. Everyone, Derek Craven is the hero of a book called Dreaming of You. And if you haven't read it, you absolutely should. And then you can go back and listen to all the other Derek Craven Day episodes. But Derek Craven Day is a time when we celebrate romance. It's a good day to celebrate romance. And right now, February 4th of 2026, it's a good day to be celebrating literally anything. Just find a little bit of joy in the world and listen to Lisa Kleypas tell us what Derek Craven would and would not do. Also, thanks to Ernie and Maggie for your questions and everybody on the Discord.
Yeah, and a couple folks on the Discord. So everybody, the heated rivalry question was like real low-hanging fruit. I think everybody wanted to know that one. So,
but I loved her answer. That was my favorite answer.
It was great.
Yep. All right. Well, everyone, I'm Sarah McLean. I'm here with my friend Jen Prokop. We are Fated Mates. You can find us every Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us online at Instagram and Threads at Fated Mates Pod and on Blue Sky at Fated Mates. You can find us at fatedmates.net, where show notes are extensive. You'll see a list of all the books that we talked about in the episode, and also a list of all the other Derek Craven Day episodes. In fact, I think you can go to fatedmates.net/Derek Craven Day. And
there's a whole Derek Craven page.
I mean, Eric has, there are charts, there are graphs, there are memes with Tom Hardy. I know this week, there's at least one book cover that terrified me. So, listen, it gets goofy over here in February because it should, because we all deserve a little bit of goofiness. And celebrate romance today and every day. And be sure to tell us what your favorite Lisa Kleypas novel is and why. And also, be sure to head on over maybe to the Discord at fatedmates.net/Patreon and play with a rousing round of Would Derek Craven.
On the Derek Craven page, there is a text file that Eric has compiled with over 300 of our Derek Craven questions, which is pretty amazing.
I mean, sometimes I do just like stare into space and think like, would Derek Craven drink a gallon of water every day because his doctor told him to?
And like, it's just like reading these, just like let your eye fall on something like Derek Craven would never eat baby carrots. And somehow you're right.
No, he would not eat a baby carrot. He would eat like a perfectly turned carrot from a French chef.
Sure.
But like a baby carrot? That doesn't seem right.
No. He would never eat a baby.
No. All right. We love you, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We are recording this, and it is just awful in Minnesota right now. We love our Minnesota Firebirds. We're thinking about you all the time. And yeah, stay strong, everyone. We love you.